This episode is proudly supported by East Coast Beverages.
So my name's Samuel James Lentini. Really what's special about East Coast Beverages and about what we do is that we are vertically integrated. We grow, we squeeze, we bottle, we blend everything here on site. And not only that, I think what is really special is that all of the bars and restaurants and hospitality venues, they're able to come and visit our site. And once they come to our site, they see what our process is and they can actually see that the lemons, limes and oranges are all getting squeezed here, where we're not using a concentrate that comes from overseas. What is really special is that we invite people to come here. We have events here, and we're a family business, and we're able to really just work off the foundations that my grandfather built many years ago and continue a quality product range.
For more information, go to eastcoastbeverages.com.au.
It's a fine balance between using technology to enhance the customer experience, but not to replace aspects of it. And that's tricky because sometimes it depends on the appetite of the consumer.
Hello there, everyone. It is Dani Valent here with you, and this is Dirty Linen. On this podcast, we chat food with fascinating people from all around the world and in every part of the food and hospitality worlds. It is always so interesting to think about guests for this podcast. We get a lot of approaches, there's a lot of outreach. Sometimes it's just I go somewhere and eat something and think I need to know the story behind this, and podcast springs from that. And I think, the reason that this podcast is going to endure, possibly until I'm unable to speak anymore, is that there are always more stories to tell and more corners of the hospitality industry and the food world to explore. And I think today is a bit of a different chat. I don't think we've ever chatted to someone quite about the topics that we're going to cover today. We are chatting to Christina Murrell. She is the General Manager and Brand Director of Luke's Banh Mi. Luke's is a banh mi shop that currently has a few stores, but it plans to grow to 30 stores across Australia, launch drive-through, be all around the country, be wholesaling. It is banh mi as a fast-moving consumer good, and it is really exciting. Christina has worked with so many great brands in her career. Rolled is one, Royal Stacks is another. She's worked with Miss Chew and Pokeade. She is a bit of a legend. Christina, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That was a nice lead up. Thanks for having me.
I am really thrilled to be chatting to you. I mean, I could have talked to Luke, but I was like, no, I want to talk to Christina. So tell us about Luke's Banh Mi. What should people, if they weren't one of the thousands of people that lined up at the most recent store opening on Little Bourke Street and created traffic jams and I don't know what else, if we don't already know what it's all about, give us a little insight into the company.
Okay, well, Luke's Banh Mi is essentially a Vietnamese bakery. So when you think about Vietnamese bakery, the bread's baked fresh daily, and that's us. And it's rooted in tradition. We started with a single bakery, and we have this big dream just to make. Because banh mi is one of those things. It's like a burger, and it's like a pizza that you can do so many things with it. You can have traditional things and then innovative things with it. Luke is a third generation Vietnamese baker. He came to Melbourne to study accounting, and he brought a lot of his family's baking roots with him. In actual fact, if you did speak to Luke, he'll tell you that this fourth generation is starting with his niece, who's only 3 years old. And the journey at the start has been about, as I mentioned, reimagining what a modern Vietnamese bakery can be like, but still sticking to, fresh bread daily, no shortcuts, really bold flavors. And our vision, as you mentioned before, is to really create Australia's leading banh mi. You know, we don't want to do everything. We want to do one thing and want to do it really, really well. So as you mentioned, our vision is to have 30 stores by 2027, and we want to expand. We do want to dabble in, you know, drive-through. That would be amazing. We're definitely starting to scale into franchising, and I really want to dabble into FMCG as well.
Amazing. So, Christina, what's your role with Luke's Banh Mi?
Okay, as a GM, I'm here to scale the business, and I really want to elevate it into a really sophisticated global QSR brand because I have a marketing background. And you can see there's a Vietnamese banh mi on literally every corner, but a lot of them are still in that traditional, you know, look. They look same, everything's same. I want to lift us up into, you know, a global level. I work really closely with Luke. My challenge from day one has always been to guide him through all the traps and pitfalls because I've been in the sector for so long and I've seen so many mistakes done in the QSR space, and I just really want to help him navigate and avoid big lessons. My focus here is really about building the structures and the systems to grow. So kind of boring stuff, but things around franchise agreements and recruitment, you know, the SOPs and the work instructions, staff policies and employment contracts, but also on the more, I suppose, my traditional side, which is the marketing side, is to lead and roll out the store launches, which is, I mentioned before, including the crazy Little Bourke Street store launch that attracted, oh God, rumour has it, you know, thousands of people, and structuring promotions and structuring social media as well, so that we ensure that like all the touch points really reflect the brand.
Christina, I feel like we're throwing a few acronyms at the audience and not everyone is really au fait with this space. It's just to throw in a bit of French. But tell us, just explain QSR, FMCG, and was there another one? Was there SOP?
Did I say SOPs?
Yeah, SOPs. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just fill us in.
Right. QSR is the quick service restaurant space. It's basically fast food chains. So your McDonald's, your Hungry Jacks, you know, or your crust pizzas, all of that is QSRs, so quick serve restaurants. The other acronym was FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. So it's basically like grocery items that you see in the supermarkets. That's what FMCG is. And SOPs, just your standard operation processes.
Perfect.
Documents, yeah.
Christina, I know you've got a background in marketing, but your life goes back way before that. So just clue us in to tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What other experience do you bring to your working life?
Yeah, well, working life, as you said, over 25 years of experience. I hope I have a young voice, but I'm pretty not that young. Over 25 years of experience in marketing, so I'm pretty diverse in the different kind of sectors, but and more recently in the last decade, I'm in the food space. On the personal level, I have a family. I started very late in the game. I have 3 kids and a husband. I still have a 4.5-year-old. And I'm not going to really disclose how old I am, but let's say I'm on the mature side of the fence. But I actually think having that brings a lot of patience, I think, when you're working with founders, because you do have to guide them and you know, bit of a consultant side of things to help them through and navigate. So I think because of that has really helped as well. My first real experience, as you mentioned, in terms of the food sector was with Rolled when I was the marketing director there, Rolled Vietnamese Street Food. And that's where I fell in love with hospitality. So I have worked in, you know, not-for-profits, financial services, utilities. Actually, I started in utilities, so corporate. But it was that role that I fell in love with the hospo sector, and I think it was just the people. It was the people, not only who I was working with, they were just so real and fun. And because it's the core front with customers, I don't know, it made you real. It was just such a big contrast to when you work in corporate. I find that in corporate, and I am stereotyping here, there's a lot of walls you put up, and sometimes you're not really you. But I found in hospo, it's you. What you see is what you get, kind of thing, especially with the people that you work with day in, day out. So I really love this space. And I also love the hospo space because it's actually not so simple, because hospitality is about awakening the human senses. It's not just the food, because most people go, oh, yes, just make great food and the rest will follow. But it's not true, because the hospo space is about awakening the human senses. What you see, because you've heard of the term food porn before. It's visual, like you see it, you want it, you grab it, you want to get into it. And then the smell as well. You want to awaken those senses, the smell of it, because you can eat through smell as well. And then the sound of it. Imagine sizzling and things like that. And if things are grilling in front of you, you're seeing the smoke, you're seeing the fire, and then you're smelling it. Oh my God. And then obviously the touch and the feel and the different textures of what you're eating, what you're feeling, and of course what you're tasting as well. So in terms of the food space, and I think this is where a lot of the food people don't get quite right, because they focus so much on one sense and not really looking at the other human senses.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's, the way you're talking about food and bringing in all those different senses and that deep engagement from customers, like it doesn't feel like fast food. It feels like something that's much rounder and richer than what, you might think of as a franchise experience.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I think people don't get it right, because food, regardless of whether you're fine dining or it's fast food, it should tick all those boxes, all those senses. You shouldn't shortcut it, because then you're not giving the customer that full food experience, because it's not just about the taste.
I mean, it sounds like you're bringing a lot of yourself to the role, Christina. Like, what's your sort of background? Like, was food important to you from a young age?
I think what really attracted to me, and I must be a little bit biased here, but I'm Vietnamese background. I came when I was really young. I came when I was 2 years old, so I wasn't quite born here. But that sense of family is still deep rooted in me as well. So in terms of the Vietnamese culture, eating together, doing everything together, it's a joint family moment around food. That's what we do. And my mum was actually a cook. She was a fabulous cook. I just wish I inherited something from her. I'm a terrible cook. I can't even follow recipes properly. It's amazing how much I can mess things up following a recipe. So I love food, but more of a eating side as opposed to the cooking side. So I think that the background being Vietnamese and, that, and I love food, all of that, it really kind of helps. And I'm very proud to be working once again in a food business, because it is quite personal actually, that I do want Vietnam and everything positive about Vietnam to be in the spotlight. And I know we're getting close there, but because historically, things that what was spotlight about Vietnam is not necessarily positive. So if you think you go backwards, the war, and then, the gangs of Vietnam's here, everything was negative, and the poor, everything was, negative. And that's why I love Rolled, and I fell in love with it in the first place because of Rolled. Rolled was the first brand that put us in the spotlight. And now with Luke's, I'm so proud, because we're at the second stage of putting Vietnam and everything good about Vietnam in the spotlight that I feel like the masses are ready for.
Amazing. I love that, Christina. It's such a great origin story, and I agree with you. I think Rolled is such an exciting brand, and really put Vietnamese food on a different platform in Australia. And it's I remember during one of our many lockdowns. I've just gone blank on the name of Rolled's owner. What's his name?
Bao.
Yeah, drove the new truck down my street. He would just drive anywhere and deliver rolls. So I remember coming out into my cul-de-sac and getting one of those meals that just kept us sane during those strange days. But yeah, it is I mean, it is a really interesting brand, and it's so interesting the way you speak about Vietnamese food and the different ways it can come into the spotlight. I think Australia has such an appreciation for Vietnamese food. I think, most people, but a lot of people would, be happy to have a long conversation about their favourite bowl of pho or their favourite banh mi. But it's going to be really interesting to see Luke's take it into new arenas. So, I mean, how do you go about building a brand?
There's actually a process that you go through in building it, and you really start with understanding the brand DNA. And it's basically the building blocks of a brand. It's okay, that's a bit of jargon. So, for example, in a human being, there are DNA. If you break it down to the tiny bits and pieces, what makes us is the DNA level. It's the same as a brand. You break it down to the brand's DNA. And how you get there is you really have a workshop and you go through a series of specific questions to really understand underlying things with, in this case, with the owner, because the brand, where there is a founder in place, the brand is a massive reflection of the founder. That's how it is. Without a founder, then you do the workshops with, the CEO and the senior managers to understand collectively what that brand DNA is. Now, what is a brand DNA? There are a few things. The very basic level of the brand DNA is defined by the attributes or the brand attributes. It's the thing what you sell and how it's different. So, for example, we sell banh mi, but what makes us different in the product, what we sell is, we make the baguettes fresh, we marinate everything in-house, we make everything in-house, etc. So that's the attributes at the basic level. Then you look at, the benefits, the brand benefits. How do we make people feel when they, consume our food or think about us? And then we look about, okay, how should we be identified? So that's the brand identity. So what I created in terms of the visuals is I wanted to create a world-class visuals that was unmistakably us. And you cannot mistake Luke's banh mi when you see our symbols that it could be something else. And then you look at the brand persona, and the brand persona is like a human persona. So it's the traits we express. But while we're doing that, what happens is we are actually, if we do it right, we attract similar people or people who are attracted to our personality. And then we try to understand what are our core values. What's the guiding belief that will guide us along? So for us, it's all about quality over shortcuts. It's about fairness. It's about doing the right thing. That's our values. And then in the center of all this, it's trying to understand the essence. What's the essence of our brand? It's like if you strip everything back, what is it at the center? And that is the core. So you do the workshop to try to understand all of those things. Now that you can describe the DNA, the brand DNA, the next step is to really build the consistency around it. So it means, consistency around across the voice, our visuals, our tone, our values, so that at every touch point we are echoing every part of our brand DNA. So social media, for example, is a channel where we can express our personality and our voice. That's a really good one because everyone knows social media. And as most people may or may not know, a brand isn't just the logo. I mean, a logo is part of your identity, but it's so much more than that. It's kind of living. It's a feeling. It's what people say about you when you're not there. It's like a collective perception of who you are, and you should create it, and you should influence the narrative, because if you don't, it's created for you by the masses, and that's the reason why brand is so important. But you need to understand it to be able to influence it. And then you really need good structures in place so that you can actually echo those brand DNA. So you need strategy. You need to understand the positioning. You need to know the tone of voice. So I was saying that the brand is you need to allow it some space as well so that it can grow. It's like a human, I guess. So when I'm creating a brand, it's like you're creating a person. You're creating a person, and you give it meaning, you give it the personality, you give it purpose, you give it all these things, you give it clothes for identity, you give it hair, you give it all those things, but you need to give it a bit of space to kind of learn and grow as well. And that's like a brand. Funny enough, we in marketing, we do really put the similarities between a human and a brand. That's how you would grow it.
Wow. I love it. Like, you make it sound so fun and creative and challenging. I guess, when you're creating humans, and, we're both parents, so we probably know this, they don't always turn out the way that you think, and they may push back on some of the designs that you have for them. How can brands do this? Like, do brands sort of become something that you didn't expect?
It does evolve. That's what I was saying. The brand, you need to give it space to kind of to grow as well. So you have intention when you first start, and you go, oh, okay, this is what I want. This is what and I want to lead you there. But it may not work there, because when you put it in the market, for example, and you realise, customers are reacting in a certain way, or in reality, the brand is reacting in a certain way, whether you like it or not, and you kind of adjust to it. So it does.
When there's tension between a brand and its audience, whether it's, I don't know, people keep, I don't know, let's say they complain about price, or they say there's not enough meat in that, or, or the service is too slow. Like, how do you know when the brand needs to change or when you need to really stick to your guns?
So the brand DNA shouldn't change. What changes is how you put it into the market. So, for example, the brand, one of the brand DNA is about, say, your values, right? So for us, it's about fair go. It's about, quality. So that's something that you shouldn't change. But if we didn't put that in the market and give examples of that, so for example, this is a good example, the launch that we just had, the Little Bird launch, and in all our intention, we wanted to give customers 50% off for their first order on the app. That was our intention. But what happened in reality? So that's in reality, we couldn't do it because we were smashed. So what the right thing to do, right, is to extend the offer, to make it right, to put the wrong right, and we did that. If we didn't do that, the market will, the consumers, the market, the voice, the mob, they will continue to tell us it's wrong. And so another example would be our Luke's Banh Mi is a Vietnamese bakery, right? And people have in mind what a Vietnamese banh mi is like. If, for example, we started to sell pizzas, for example, the market would go, oh, that's weird. Why are you doing that? The masses of voices would tell us, and plus we internally, we should be looking against our DNA to go, oh, that's not really the attributes. Because remember I said, at the bottom, at the basis, is what is it that we sell? Banh mi. Well, pizzas aren't banh mi at all. Does that kind of explain it?
Yeah, okay. Definitely it does. It's like I think I suppose when you come up with values, it's like they've got to come from somewhere. So you don't want to lose your centre in response to the market, no matter what the market is telling you.
Yes. So the DNA shouldn't change, but how you express it can. So it's like as a person, your core doesn't change, but your clothes do, who you hang out with do, what you do, like what you spend your time changes. You can do all those things. But at your core, that doesn't change.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And how do you go about communicating all of this to your staff? Is there a way of distilling it into something simple that they can hang on to?
I wish I could say that we've got everything in lined up, and yes, but we're essentially a startup, and it's not quite there yet, and it's still on a very personal basis where we still know it's getting a bit harder, but we still know the staff, the individual staff. And we also trust our managers as well. Our managers have very aligned values as us. And I feel like actually lots of Vietnamese have aligned values because, we're from the same DNA, we're from the same. So there's a coreness, that's a similarity. So I love to say, we've got these values all plastered up everywhere as part of our onboarding, but not quite. It's a little bit rustic at this point in time, and it's based on our personal interactions with new staff.
I guess that's why you don't open 30 stores at once.
You just can't. Not if Little Burke Street's an example.
What do you think that owner-operator restaurants could learn from QSR and the kind of journey that you're on?
I think a lot. I think about the difference between, so if are we talking about difference between restaurants and QSRs? Because they are different. Yeah. So restaurants is like single venue places, and QSR is multi-chain, like multi venues. And I've always, actually, it's an area that I've thought about quite a lot. In QSR, the main thing, critical success factor, one of it, is excitement. You need to be an exciting thing all the time. So that's why you see like the big ones like McDonald's or Hungry Jack's, all those big ones, they constantly have promos or something. It's always in your face, whether you think it's a good deal or not. They're always creating buzz, they're always creating excitement, and for that reason they always remain relevant, and they are always there, in front of the customers. I think single venue restaurants don't do that enough. It's almost like they focus on whatever it is they build, and then they kind of forget about everything else. They don't create that constant buzz all the time. So I think that's one thing. And QSRs, the other critical success factor with QSRs is the successful ones invest heavily on brand and marketing. So that is so important, because if you are not always there and growing your brand out there and influencing the narrative, then you kind of become boring. And I think with single venues, I'm not sure if they understand brand and marketing like the QSRs too. So I definitely think they should invest more in brand and marketing. Data too. QSR's big players of data, customer data as well. I mean, using a CRM, putting a CRM system in place is not hard. I mean, imagine this. Imagine with your restaurant, right? If you call up a restaurant to make a booking, right? And then the staff recognises your phone, your number, and pulls up your order history, and then greets you by your name and offers you your usual table, and recommends a new dish based on what you've liked before. That's personalization at another level, which really builds loyalty. And restaurants can do that. Any restaurant can do that today. QSR do that on a bigger level. So they use data for the direct marketing, database marketing purposes. They do a lot of emailing, segmentation, with their customer base. We've got a loyalty app as well. Another thing I think restaurants can do relatively easy is to systemize their storytelling. A lot of the, established QSR who understands marketing, they have this in place, systemizing storytelling. So storytelling is about what kind of content you put out there in social media predominantly, So putting content plans in place, a system to collect the content, and then creating the content and then scheduling the content and engaging the content. All of that can actually be systemized. And so they know. So on a base level, there's always business as usual content that's always, being published and pushed out, regardless of whether or not you've got a campaign in place. I can talk more about those things, but it gets a bit boring for you, I reckon.
I'm finding it all very fascinating. I think, one thing that really strikes me is the irony of a QSR, like a business with multiple venues, that perhaps doesn't recognise the staff. The staff member doesn't recognise the customer as they walk in. But it's ironic that kind of business could actually deliver a more personalised experience than the restaurant down the street, where the person might go once a month. It's an example of how technology can change dynamics quite dramatically. But I mean, I'd love you to talk more about tech and hospitality and where you think the right balance is. Tech is really important in QSRs, especially because the success of a QSR is you need to provide the same proposition at every site. And in order to do that, you need to systemize and control as many factors as possible. And the only way you can really do that is using technology. Using the same POS, which is your POS, your traditional cash register, but now it's a little bit more advanced than cash register, is the intelligence. Using loyalty apps so we can collect the data, and we know, which customers like what. We can segment it. What was I saying? I've lost my train of thought. Yes, I was just saying that QSR, more than anything, we need to use technology so that we can try to replicate the experience at every single site, every single time. But technology shouldn't be a replacement, because otherwise you're kind of the irony of being hospitable. Like, hospitality is being hospitable, and hospitable is being very personal, providing that personal service. So it's a fine balance between using technology to enhance the customer experience, but not to replace aspects of it. And that's tricky, because sometimes it depends on the appetite of the consumer. So, for example, in Korea and Japan, there's a lot of food places where you don't see anybody. It's just a wall, and you put, you order in, you pay, and then your food kind of comes out in one of the lockers, because everything happens in the back. But in that environment, the consumer's appetite for that is okay. They accept, they don't want they don't want to talk to anybody. But if we do it here in Australia, our appetite for that is we're not ready for it yet. And so we need to have the human faces, so the human contact, serving at the counter, in addition to all the other tech that's happening. So technology in hospo is very interesting. It is really based on a good balance between what's the consumer's appetite for technology versus how can we enhance the customer experience, but also improve our back of house operations as well. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Well, it's so interesting, and I wonder, is all technology progress? I mean, that's kind of a big question. It's one that I suppose a lot of people are grappling with as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives. But I think, you say Australians don't have the appetite for standing in front of a wall of a wall and getting their food to pop out of it. It's like, do we want to get to that point? Or do we want to celebrate the fact that there is still human interaction when we go out to get a banh mi? I don't know. It's such a tricky one. Obviously, you're always trying to do things to a price, and you've got to look at any available efficiencies. But I think one of the things that should be celebrated about hospitality and food service in general is that it does it does bring people together. And I don't know, I think we probably all need to query the quote unquote innovations that enable us to disconnect as rather than connect.
Yes. I totally agree with you. And it depends on where the consumer is as well. So our loyalty app, for example, it provides pre-ordering, so you can order anywhere, and that convenience is well, of course, to certain demographics, especially city workers, and I guess the younger-ish generation is digital native. They go, of course, I don't want it any other way, but then we've got the older demographics who don't want to use that, want to line up, to order. So the technology is really, really, really dependent on the demographics, the appetite. I think it all comes back to the appetite of who you're trying to enhance that customer experience to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder with it being a younger demographic that has more of an appetite or just turns first to technology, I wonder if that's something that's then just going to travel up the age range with them, or whether there will also be a hunger for more human connection as people get older. It'll be an interesting one to watch.
I'm not sure. So it's even interesting internally. Years ago, I wouldn't dream of communicating to my team just through chat. Now it's the only way I communicate with the teams is through chat. Quick messaging. I've got so many chat groups on my phone, it's not funny. But it's the only way that, you can kind of communicate with them. And even our training, which are, there's a training program that we're about to, creating, setting up. But one of the type of training that we're going to create is all about quick snippets, videos, and quick quizzes, as opposed to sit down, lecture style, that kind of training. So even the way we do things internally has to change because of the generation and the appetite for, one, attention, and two, for technology. We have to adapt to it.
Absolutely. That's so interesting. I love the quiz model. That makes total sense. Having watched my kids sit through video modules training for, other fast food organisations, I certainly think they would have sat down more avidly if it was a quiz, not a video they needed to watch.
Yes, and it's quick too. It's got to be quick.
Yeah, totally. So interesting. Christina, the price of a banh mi is a topic that exercises a lot of people. Some people think it should be a really cheap snack, and others are keen to point out that, there's as much work that goes into a banh mi as, any kind of any kind of food that should be valued highly. There's a lot of labour and culture and ingredients that goes into it. How do you see that? Bringing a banh mi into the QSR space. Is it? How do you think about pricing?
It is a bit of a balance. So banh mi is traditionally an affordable meal that you can eat, morning, noon, and at night. It can be a snack or it can be a full-on meal, and we respect that aspect of it. So affordability is quite big and major in our positioning. But what is that affordability? What is that? And that is determined by the market that we're serving, because in our eyes, it's affordable. It's never going to be at the top end, and it's never going to be the bottom end. It's never going to be in the top end, because if it's the top end, then it's not affordable anymore. It's not like you can't eat it morning, noon, and night. That's what I mean by you can't really afford it, can't really eat it. But it will never be on the bottom end, because we use premium ingredients, and there's a cost to that. And so we're always about quality and never shortcuts. So because of that reason, we're not your banh mi place that you can get $7 in St. Albans or Springvale, because we are like duck meat, for example. Duck is very expensive. but we were able to still position it quite affordable. It's, our crispy duck banh mi, the new one, that's $13. So the middle range affordability is where we will always sit, because we want to stay true to the traditional banh mi. So in terms of, accessibility, obviously we want everybody to have our Luke's banh mi, but we would never select a site that would jeopardize the price. So we would do the other way around. So we have site selection criteria, so that each site we select, we will never have to increase the price for that site. And that is actually important, because we want the price to be the same regardless of where we are located. In terms of, staying authentic to who we are, where our innovation truly lies is within the protein. So in a banh mi, there's certain profiles. So, the baguette's going to be crunchy but soft on the inside. There's the, the pate and the mayo and the pickles and the herbs, right? So those profiles of a banh mi is what people expect in a banh mi. And those profiles, we wouldn't change a lot, because that's what the expectation is, and that's what classified as a banh mi is. So we stay authentic in that area, but where we can, innovate is in the protein. So for example, duck, the crispy duck is an innovation. Have I gone off topic?
No, you've just made me want duck, that's all. But apart from that, it's very on topic.
Okay, great.
No, perfect. So Christina, how are you feeling about the journey so far and, the road that you're on?
I'm super excited, super duper excited, because I think even when I met Luke a few years ago, I could just see it. We're the cusp. Banh mi is at the cusp of an explosion. It's reached mass market, and reaching mass market as a category is exciting, because it's a chance where you can really dominate the world. With what we have, we could be, the new, Pizza Hut, the new McDonald's, that category that reaches that level. So I'm really, really excited about that, because banh mi is something that is not just for Australian market. It can be anywhere, because as long as there's a big Vietnamese community already, like the US or anywhere that has Vietnamese there for a million years, and the banh mi category has been becoming more and more popular, that's the potential where we could go to, kind of thing. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, I'm excited. Very excited for you. Very excited to get my mouth around a crispy duck banh mi in the very near future. Christina, this has been as fascinating as I hoped. I think there's so many takeaways, pardon the pun, from this conversation for people who are working in fast food, but also in restaurants at any level. So many words of wisdom, and it's applicable strategies and insights. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And I'll see you soon for a banh mi.
Very welcome. You're welcome anytime. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Christina. This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This